Well, as you can see, I have somewhat regained my sense of humor. Welcome to the Vegematic Show. After a good rest and some mental health exercises, I'm feeling better. Today I went to the library. Yes, the old-fashioned way of gathering information. The library. Wonderful space, the library. I've forgotten. Having done so much of my reading online lately, I've forgotten the joys of just going to the public library. And while I was at the public library, my wife and I were on the same floor, and she decided she wanted to look at some books. And I heard a lecture going on. Well, it wasn't really a lecture. It was a group of people sitting around, listening to a woman talk about her struggles with mental health. It was moving. I was touched by it, and touched by the honesty in her portrayal of her struggles with manic depression. As this woman began to describe the circumstances of her life, there were times where I seriously choked up and felt, what do I have to complain about? She described perfectly the symptoms that she suffered and recounted various episodes of suicide attempts, hospitalizations, and broken marriage, all the things that I have been spared as a sufferer from depression. And what this dear woman did for me is make me want to come out here on my usual silly YouTube platform and discuss things like mental health. You cannot live in a broken society without being a broken human being in some way or another. And the ones that are managing well in this existence are generally the ones who do not have a good sense of compassion. So after a period of complete exhaustion, mentally and physically, I had the opportunity to rest and to get myself together enough to continue this Vegematic thing. And so many kind comments came in from all of you saying, please don't take your channel down. And at the time I was reading it, it gave me comfort, and I answered all of those and said, well, I'll be back. I wasn't sure if I was going to be. But the day I had today ensured that I had to be. I realized while listening to this woman's story that she was fortunate enough to live in a country who has universal health care and is able to get psychological and psychiatric help. Inadequate though the system may be, it is certainly more adequate than what our sisters and our brothers in America are dealing with. I felt very grateful to be Canadian as I listened to that woman, as I listened to her story and listened to her struggles and her attempts, dogged attempts to deal with her mental illness. And while still struggling, she has made enormous strides and had the courage to stand up in front of 50 strangers and tell her story. And she received a great deal of applause at the end of it. And I think this is the thing that people don't understand about mental illness. They may look at somebody and go, that person is lazy. They don't want to work. When they don't realize the thoughts racing inside of their heads, the lack of sleep or exhaustion or taking up the entire amount of time struggling against this thing called mental illness. So I had a very interesting day today. And it began by watching one of you out there, Mr. Johnny Keene from Western Michigan, somewhere in Western Michigan, who encouraged me once more to make videos. So I thought, after I came back from the library and had this moving experience, I thought of how small my problems are compared to so many others that are suffering out there, and so many that are suffering without adequate health care, not being able to afford medication, not being able to live or allowed to function in the heartless society that we find ourselves in. So having gained a new equilibrium in my life, I'm able to go back on YouTube and talk with my friends and reconnect. Thank you for being patient. It might have been a lot longer before I posted the next video, but I know all of you will be back, because once you've reached the slimy underside of YouTube, you might not want to let it go, because it might be hard to find again. So that's my little rant for tonight. Hopefully you found it somewhat interesting. And again, thank you to all of my devoted audience. Though it may be small, it's certainly very much quality over quantity, as my friend Freighter Chaos reminded me. Goodbye to everybody, and I'll talk to you later. Stay strong, stay focused, do what you can to make it through just one more day.